Well, hello, welcome back to Suburban Hunt 365. I'm DJ, and as you can tell, we were at the range today. So, in today's video, as you can tell from the thumbnail, what we're doing is we are going to see how the chokes on a 12 gauge shotgun change the impact and the grouping for the 12 gauge sluggers. So today we're going to be using the Remington 12 gauge sluggers, 2 3/4 inch shell with a 1 ounce slug, rifled slug in it. If you haven't seen it, the link will be above, but it's for the previous shotgun video that we did. It's going to be where we did the Remington Slugger versus the Remington Slugger managed recoil. The reason I want you to check that out is because we did use the modified choke in that video, and we're going to be using that same group for today's video on this list that we have here. So what I've done is I've gone to Cabela's and I bought a Skeet improved cylinder, full and extra full chokes from Cabela's. Now those are all Carlson chokes. We're going to start off with a Skeet, which is 0.725 in interior diameter. Then we're going to move up to the improved cylinder, which is 0.720. Then the modified choke that we had in the previous video is the Remington modified, which is a 0.702. Then we're going to move into the full choke, which is the Carlson at a 0.700. And last but not least, we're going to be using the extra full Carlson, which is a 0.690. So to kind of elaborate on that further, when I was looking at the different chokes that they had there at Cabela's, I noticed that they had like a light modified, they had other types that were kind of oddball choke sizes. But what I really looked at was the actual interior diameter size, like I just read off, the 0.725 or all the way down to the 0.690. And they're everywhere in between. They call them different names. So one brand modified may be the same size as a light modified or something to that effect. So when you're buying your chokes, really pay attention to the actual size of the choke as opposed to what the name of the choke is. Because if I get one modified from this company, it's going to be a different size than this company, and that's going to affect your shot. Now, Remington on their box actually says for the best results, use improved cylinder. So let's start running through these and let's figure out, is that really the best one? So first off is going to be our Skeet, again measuring 0.725. All right guys, as I was shooting that, I completely forgot to start the camera. I feel like an idiot for doing that. I apologize, but here is the picture of that group. All right, so that one came in at 4 3/8 of an inch. So a little bit wider than I prefer, about the size of my hand, again, just not awesome, especially at 50 yards. We've been doing the muzzleloader series here on this channel, and we're getting those kind of groups out of a muzzleloader at 100 yards. But with this at 50 yards, that means we're looking at closer to 8-9 inches at 100 yards, and that's outside that pie plate that we've been talking about in our muzzleloader series. So, but it's Skeet. It's also the widest one that we have. So, looking at these pressures real quick, we have 1427, 1397, 1465, 1428, and 1432. So, with those, it's not bad. It's definitely slower than what we saw with the modified on the previous video. That average coming in at 1429. Which is a good bit below the packaged 1560 that's on the box there. So, but we have a standard deviation of 24.13. There again, a little bit bigger than what we saw with the modifieds in the previous video. So that's where we're starting at the 4 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to move on from that. We're going to go into the improved cylinder, which again is the 0.720. All right, well that group looks a lot better. It's at least a lot tighter from what it looks. It's a little bit left to right. For those precision shooters, that usually means trigger control. But with it being a shotgun, using the bead at 50 yards, going for precision, you're going to get what you get with a bead on a shotgun. This actual group came in at 3 1/4 of an inch. So that is a pretty decent group, from my opinion, for a shotgun at 50 yards. Again, I really don't plan on using this out to 100, especially with these types of groups that we're getting at 50. So, but to go from 4 3/8 to 3 1/4, that's definitely an improvement. And that's what Remington says to use, right? So that's not too bad. That's not too bad. So let's look at the data here. We've got 1439, 1436, 1404, a little low in there, 1452, and 1488. So we're a little bit more consistent on what we saw with the Skeets. We're still lower than what we saw in the previous video, and we again are a lot lower than the advertised speed on the box. Now, full disclosure, it was a little bit colder yesterday when I shot than in the previous video, so we'll have to do some testing to see how much weather and temperature, how it affects these barrels with the shotguns. This one came in at an average of 1443.8. So we're looking at an average, let's go back over here to the Skeet. So 1429 on the Skeet, 1443 on the improved cylinder. So not a huge difference, it's definitely a lot faster, which kind of makes sense because we're constricting that that slug as it's coming through the choke. So that kind of makes sense that we're going to get a little bit higher velocities coming out of that. So it makes sense that that is a little bit tighter on there. So as I mentioned, we are going to be using the same group that came from the previous video with the modified, and I'll show you an image of that here right now. This group also came in at 3 1/4 of an inch. So there you go. You got improved cylinder and modified, shooting a 3 1/4 inch group at 50 yards. But looking at this, again, it was a little bit warmer when I shot the modified ones. So the pressures are 1507, 1519, 1550, 1511, 1523, 1522. Now that deviation, or excuse me, the average was 1522. And that deviation came in at 16.88. So it seems like it got a lot better deviation when it was a little bit warmer than when it is colder. So again, we're going to be testing that further. So let's go ahead and let's move into the full. All right, man, I thought for sure we were fixing to just take this whole thing up until that fourth shot came in. That one off kind of threw us off. So that one off to the left there, that actually caused this group to be 3 3/4 of an inch. But that being said, you had one kickoff. If you take that kickoff away, you have a 2 1/4 inch group, and it's a fairly tight group. So 4 out of 5 shots hitting that close together, I would not put a full choke out of the running, not at all. I mean that's pretty outstanding. I would almost argue that that's a tighter group than the improved cylinder and the modified, just based off the 4 out of the 5. But again, we have to use the whole group because if you're out in the woods, that can happen. So let's see what happened with our velocities here. That first shot was 1476. Second is 1343. 1415 on the third shot. The kickoff was at 1457 and then 1447. So I really can't blame the speed because we have lower and higher. So it could have been user error. There's no telling. There could have been a defect in the slug itself. There's really no telling what caused that to kick left. But with the overall group of this, it comes in at 3 3/4 of an inch. So there again, the other group inside there is 2 1/4. So you can't take full out of the picture yet. So last but not least, let's go ahead and let's move over to the extra full. And let's see, that one is a .690. All right, so this is what I call a cherry picker group right here. I was like, so you got the first couple shots right there. The one drops low, the one drops far left. But if you look at the internal one, this is not what we're using, but this is what I mean by cherry picker. So if you pick that 3-round group inside that center, that is a 1 1/4 of an inch group. But you also have 2 outliers that turn this into a 7-inch group. So as far as our scales are concerned, it is going to be a 7-inch group. So I will not be using a extra full choke, at least not for my sluggers with deer. So now that we've seen these real quick, let's go over to the chart. You guys know how I love this chart. So looking at the chart here, I have moved the Remington Slugger reduced recoil down, but again, these are a 2 3/4 inch, 1 ounce rifled slug. And moving over to our standard deviations here, you have 24.13 with the Skeet. You have a 30.36 with the improved cylinder, 16.88 on the modified, a 52.08 with a full, and then a 28.36 with the extra full. So what I'm really gathering from this, because again, I had mentioned earlier in the video, it was a little bit warmer when I shot the modified video versus when I shot the this video for the range, and the deviations are way different than what we saw on the warmer day. So we will be taking this and redoing this closer to the spring where it's a warmer day and kind of see how those fluctuate. But the group sizes, that's what ultimately we're looking at right now, is the group sizes themselves. And they're almost in, it looks a lot like a ladder test for loose powder. You got on one end, you have the 4 3/8 of an inch. On the other end, you have a 7-inch group, and then a 3/4 inch group, and then 2 3 1/4 inch groups. So with this, I would definitely be using either an improved cylinder or a modified with the Remington Sluggers. All right, guys, if you stuck with us this long, I definitely want to just say thank you, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys watching. So if you guys look in the description below, you'll see a link to our actual website, which is suburbanhunt365.com. And the link will send you to the actual data sheets that we've been collecting with these. It's an Excel document that will give you all of the shots, the sizes, the speeds, the averages, everything that we have. We've been putting those in that sheet, and as we update them, it updates the website live. So at any point, you can go back, check those, and see what updated information we have, and you can browse them at your leisure, both for the shotgun and for the muzzleloader. So while you're there, guys, again, I kind of want to put this out there. We do have our apparel side. Go over there, check it out. It'll really help us out if you guys would at least check that out. But the biggest way you guys can help us, and the easiest way you can help us, as always, is hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button, but comment down below. You guys, I've said it 100 times, I really love seeing those comments. That's how we keep this channel going. That's how we keep these tests going. What do you want to see? So for those of you on my muzzleloader side, that's actually why I'm here today on the range. We're fixing to put down some muzzleloader time, and then we'll move back over into the sluggers, or into the slugs, rather. So again, guys, I really appreciate you. From Suburban Hunt 365, I'm DJ. We'll catch you on the next one.